So man, what a week for comedy. I don't know if you saw there's all these articles about what's happening in China with stand-up comedians getting censored inside and out of China. Have you seen this stuff?
I heard. Yeah, Uncle Roger.
Uncle Roger, there's it's crazy how we take for granted the stuff here that comedians worry about versus in other places where you literally can get in trouble for the most harmless things.
Right.
It's almost like the Lenny Bruce times when you couldn't
Exactly what I was thinking of.
swear, and
Yes.
that's what it's like there, except with, the government. You can't basically be profane about the government, but, um, there's there's just there's a lot of culture wars there with just trying to project certain types of people and not having, quote, "sissy" people in their culture, trying to project strength, and that was like the sad thing about the one joke that they got upset was about was just comparing the military to dogs that were playing around and being chased or something.
Was that House?
Yeah, his stage
Yeah.
house, yeah.
A lady who just, like, sort of defended him got detained by the police, and I think is still in custody. Uncle Roger said something like, he was like, "Oh, where are you from? China?" And then he just made a face like, "Mm." And that was enough.
China, good country, good country. Good country, good country. And he's a nephew from Taiwan. Not a real country. Not a real country.
He had another comedian on his channel, who the other comedian said something negative towards China. Uncle Roger took the video down and apologized to China and said that he didn't know that this was a bad person and blah 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 blah. So he actually went the other way, like 2021. So now he's kind of getting more bold.
Yeah, I think people, they take it for granted. I think there's some times too when it's a little bit easier to say that stuff versus other times. And I think with zero COVID protests and other protests that they've had, I think they're extra, in lockdown mode with a lot of different things. But the thing that's crazy about the New York Times piece that I read is that because this one thing happened, they were canceling all these comedy shows, music shows, all these foreign musicians weren't allowed to perform. It's like, as a comedian, one thing that I always worry about is saying something and getting canceled or some joke that's not funny and too offensive. But it's crazy to think about bombing so hard that you nuke the rest of the entire artistic community in a country for a while. Most times you get feedback like the premise needs a little work or the punchline could be better, but like there, it's like your punchline is going to get you 2 to 4 years in prison, and your premise is going to get you shadow banned on all of our social media sites. It's like,
Yeah, it's barely offensive stuff. It created a sort of underground comedy scene in Chinatown where apparently they're having these shows in Mandarin and just crapping all over China, and they're selling out in like minutes. It's getting really big. I don't think China can do much. They'll probably take their social media accounts down. Speaking of which, Uncle Roger is not even like a Chinese citizen. He's Malaysian. He went to school in the United States, and now he's living in the UK. So
I saw that he's not even there. So it's going to be so weird to get banned from afar like that.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure he uses, obviously he uses the social media apps and
Yeah,
stuff. Um, it'd
I'm
be
sure.
funny if the Chinese government was so disconnected they got rid of Uncle Roger, but not Nigel. So oh, it's two people. I thought it was two people. No, it's one.
That would be so funny. I just think it's so sad that it's like there's such, people are so scared of comedy there. Like that's just got to be the saddest government. Like everyone's afraid to make jokes ever, and like no one ever watches. I mean, they must not watch comedy, but it makes me think like, there are those rumor. I don't know if they're rumors or it's fact that people like Kim Jong Un in North Korea really like Western entertainment. It'd be funny if just Xi Jinping is sitting there watching Bill Burr specials every night, just like loving everything. But in public, he's like, no, you can't make that joke about the crosswalks being dirty.
Dude, that's so true. I think Hitler loved like Charlie Chaplin and Western stuff, and Obama, not Obama, Osama had a bunch of stuff on his hard drive of like Western dirty stuff, and
Yeah, I read that.
so yeah, you're right, man. He's got to be really into the entertainment industry down here.
I mean, so like, what are their jokes? Like, what's funny to them? I guess the jokes are. It's like that thing we talked about a while back with that documentary about, I think it was Liberia, where the jokes are about violence and oppression and things that only they think is hilarious.
Yeah. There's a good juxtaposition between the thing you say and the thing you think, and a good joke can sort of merge those two and make you realize, like, okay, that's funny. That's how everyone really feels. And
Yeah.
I think that's why like the underground Mandarin comedy shows are probably selling out, because when you have that repression, there's more of that to sort of feed off of. It's more taboo.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. The best comedy is when it's something on the tip of someone's tongue that they maybe have sort of thought but haven't articulated. And anyone who's oppressed is gonna laugh at something that's, makes fun of their situation. So I can see why it's so enticing to go to these shows and also so dangerous for them to try it out.
Lenny Bruce, I mean, we all know he's sort of like one of the godfathers of like art, new age comedy, but if you look back at his stuff, it's not that funny because you don't have that awkwardness. You don't have that edge. Like you're
Mhm.
looking at him say stuff, you're like, doesn't matter. Who cares? Because it doesn't, like what he said then wouldn't matter now. And I'm wondering if a lot of the comedy scenes now, like hopefully in the future, Chinese people are gonna look back on it and be like, well, that's not funny. Because it shouldn't be an issue, hopefully, in the future.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I mean, that's one of the issues with comedy is that it's pretty much always a place and time. So, the
Right.
references, of course, are some of the first things that don't make any sense 10, 20, 50 years later. But also socially, it's just you see it in both directions. You see stuff that feels very cutting edge that's now just taken for granted. Um, and then you also see stuff that is sort of offensive because we've realized that it hurts people's feelings now or something. But 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 yeah, I mean Pryor was like that too. I'm reading the biography about him, and it's a lot of stuff about the stuff he was saying about race, and it was very cutting edge at the time.
Pryor talked about so much stuff that was personal to him that I think a lot of it still holds up. Whereas Lenny Bruce was a lot of like the outside, like the government, and so that stuff really didn't hold up. But yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. And Pryor he took years to get to that point. He was just really kind of
Right.
like a Bill Cosby, in the mold of a Bill Cosby for a while, and then finally got to the point where he was willing to confront the darkness of what he grew up with his family stuff and bizarre
Right.
things and class warfare.
Yeah, Meta, aka Facebook, announced that they're going to have a checkmark system where you pay to have verified account, and it's going to be on Instagram as well, since they own that. And I think it's like 14.99 or some nominal fee or something. And obviously it's optional, but their justification is that a lot of bots and deep fakes and whatnot are duplicating accounts, and it's getting more expensive to verify. Um, and could be just a cash grab and an excuse.
Yeah,
Um,
if it's really troubling to verify, how about you just let everyone have a check mark to verify themselves and have a human verification process like Airbnb and Uber does or whatever, and just make it a free service.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if Airbnb has the numbers that Meta has. They're
Yeah.
seriously in the weeds with like a lot of this new technology, like AI is spam posting and
Mhm.
whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm as cheap as they come, but I'm shocked how many things are free. Like in our life and on the internet, you can just like read articles and newspapers for free and watch video. Like we get a lot of stuff for free, and this is like an optional payment, and people are freaking out. I'm like, it's fine.
But I
whatever.
think that's the problem, is because people have always gotten stuff for free. It's sort of like if suddenly you were charged to pour water out of your water filter every day or something that you've had for free for a long time. I mean, obviously the verification thing is a little different, but I don't know. Facebook's been free since we were in college.
But it's a freemium model. So getting the check mark thing is not going to stop me from using the, Facebook app or whatever else they own, Instagram. Um, so yeah, it's kind of just one of those optional things that I'm just not going to pay for and not care about and never bring up again and keep using it for free. So it's no skin off my back.
I think the thing that bothers me about it is I always sort of, I guess, in my thought process, thought it would be great to get to a point where I was, successful enough with creative things that I'd get the check mark. And now that I can buy it, it's just sort of like, not interested,
Ruins the
You go to
trophy effect.
Yeah, now that I don't have to earn it, I'm like, I don't care about being anonymous.